Hey guys, thank you for coming and checking out the interviews that we are doing with many different guests all over the place. We talk about multiple things with them because the Fairy Tale podcast is expanding out to more than just fairy tale, and we're very happy about that. But guys, I want to take this moment to tell you about our Patreon, which is patreon.com/fairytalepodcast. Now, if you're listening to this interview on either our YouTube or our SoundCloud channels, I want to let you know that you're actually getting them a week late because they go up immediately onto our Patreon and then we release them publicly a week later. So if you'd like to get to all the goodies and extra content that we're putting out there, make sure to become a patron, and it's just really easy to do. We don't ask for like exorbitant amounts of money. It's just something that goes into helping to support the podcast itself so that we can continue running and expanding. We just recently lost our website host, and we're working on trying to get that back, but we can definitely use your help to do that. And we're trying to expand back out to getting back onto iTunes and to taking that money and helping people get to more cons so that they can actually interview more amazing guests for you guys, and we can expand our reach and actually talk with even more and more people that we're fans of ourselves, that we know that others are too, so that you can come and check those out. And perhaps we can up our mic quality. For all of our AWA interviews, I want to say that the way that we had to do everything, the room that we were in, we had a lot of background noise from the AC unit. The audio quality may not be the best for Walker, who was our interviewer for AWA, but the majority of the stuff that was recorded, he's going to sound a little weird because the mic was facing away from him, because we want to emphasize the person that we're interviewing, our guest that we're interviewing, should take the priority as far as the sound and audio quality. So you'll hear them a lot more clearly than you will Walker, but once again, there was an AC unit. We were trying to kill the background noise for that, and it made the audio sound a little weaker from his end, but we did boost it up so you could hopefully hear him clearly. Things like that can be fixed if we get better equipment, and that's another reason why we have the Patreon set up. And guys, you can just drop $1, $5, $10, whatever. We understand. If you're a broke anime fan like we are, a little bit is fine.
Hi there again, this is Walker with Fairy Tale Podcast at Anime Weekend Atlanta 2017, and now I'm with Ali Hillis, which you're actually known to me and probably to a lot of others who are listening in as Lightning from Final Fantasy 13 and Liara from Mass Effect.
Indeed, those are two of my big ones.
So unfortunately, I normally before these interviews I take time to prep and research everyone extensively so I have at least some talking points. Unfortunately, these have kind of been back to back these past 2 days. It's just all right, go from this interview to this one.
It's a lot of hard work.
Scramble through. But, of course, that's what you're known to a lot of fans for. But instead of asking the typical question, oh my gosh, which one of those two is your favorite? Why is that?
That's the hardest question anyway.
I'll jump right into something else. So, with talking about Final Fantasy 13, I'm going to go ahead and apologize in advance, because it has been a hot minute since I've played that game, so I do not remember
It's been a hot minute since I recorded that game, so you and I are on totally the same page. Plus, I bet we both stayed up a little too late last night. Yeah.
But one of the things that seems to be a reoccurring thematic element in Final Fantasy 13 is family. Mm-hmm. And whether it be just the bonds between Lightning and her sister, or the broken bonds between Snow and Hope.
Yeah.
Or just in general, the characters.
Or the funny relationship between Lightning and Snow.
That was one that they mentioned to me earlier. But it always seems like it comes back to that. Either people are trying to protect their family, people are doing what they think is in the best interest of their family, mm-hmm. or they're just trying to avoid their family entirely.
Altogether. Kind of like life.
Yeah, kind of like life. You want to do that. But it seems like that's a big part to play in Lightning's role as a character as well, because she is the quintessential maid. She's on the cover of the freaking game. 2 of the games, actually, now that I think about it.
And in Vogue magazine, apparently. Yeah.
That's a new one.
Louis Vuitton decided that she was one of the most iconic females of the century or something like that, and he put her in a big spread in Vogue magazine wearing Louis Vuitton stuff. Yeah, billboards everywhere. A friend of mine took a photo of a billboard in Japan with Lightning on the front wearing Louis Vuitton. Yeah. It's been crazy, but it's super cool.
Yeah.
How awesome of him. He's a fashion icon, and he actually acknowledged a video game character in his creations. I thought that was pretty cool.
So in Lightning Returns, when do we get that DLC where you get to buy the Louis Vuitton?
I know, right? Where are my discounts, people? Where's my swag? I need some handbags and shoes. Come on.
But it seems, as they were iterating to me earlier, people over there and staff have been on the Final Fantasy games, I guess, recently.
Yes.
So they were telling me that one of the big things with Lightning is looking out for her sister outside of also trying to kind of prove herself as more or less a military leader, I think.
Yes, and keeping this whole group knit together. And I like what you said about family, because I think, in Lightning's world, it's not just her family, it's her team. Yeah. And how she weaves together all these different personalities and people to create bonds, even though she's not necessarily the easiest person to bond with. She's able to help create bonds with her team of all different characters. I think that's pretty cool.
And Lightning's a very different Final Fantasy protagonist than we've had before, like just listing the ones that I've played, because I don't remember a lot of them. Like the main protagonists of 3 and 6 are more or less just like, I want to find out who I am and what my purpose is. And then with 7, that's just a bag of cats I'm not going to open. 10, Titus is just exceptionally self-involved until, I think, he reminds me of Luke from the Tales of the Abyss series, and the fact that he's just so self-involved until halfway through the story when he's like, maybe I should not be a narcissistic asshole.
Maybe I should think about this.
But Lightning's a little different. We've had protagonists in the past, like with Final Fantasy 12 with Vaughn, or I think it's Final Fantasy 4 with...
You're good that you can keep them all straight.
Whoever his name is. I think it's Cecil.
Somebody shouted out. Wait, there's nobody else here.
So, I have no idea. I'll look it up later. But I know that with Final Fantasy 4, the premise is that he and his brother are on, mixed terms. And then in 6, there's a pair of twins, Edgar and Sabine, who have this exceptionally complex relationship because they're both from the royal family, but Sabine's was more or less chosen. They're in his dad's will, hey, you need to be the king. He's like, fuck that. No. And Edgar's like, I'll do it for you. We'll flip a coin, whichever. We're twins. No one's going to notice if one of us is missing.
If one of us switches out.
Yeah, it's like the Parent Trap.
I was going to say it's the Parent Trap. Oh, no.
But family's a recurring theme, but the difference is just with how they decide to touch on it and work through it.
Mm-hmm.
And with 13, I think they did a really nice job of displaying that family's what you're stuck with in some cases, and other times you have to find it. But in 13, they kind of did a nice job of saying, family's not just bonds of blood. It's more than that.
Mm-hmm.
It's who you associate with. It's who you build relationships with. It's who you butt heads with from time to time. But
yeah, and also, we did a lot of work in Final Fantasy 13, just in 13, where we met Lightning for the first time. We did a lot of work on her backstory and where she came from, and I thought that it was really cool to have a character in a game talk about, the loss of her family and how she's kind of displaced in this world, because I feel like a lot of people can identify with that. Yeah. And so even though we have this tough character, Lightning, who seems to have this, crazy exterior, and she just won't let people in, then we find out why, which is nice. And we find out that there actually is a vulnerability and a soft spot in her, which makes her more real and more accessible,
Moving away from Lightning and into Liara, because that's one that I'm a lot more familiar with the 17 times I've played through the Mass Effect.
Wow, I'm impressed. 17, that might be a record.
Not the full games, it's just each
one,
game multiple times, and I just stack them together.
Well, that's what's nice, is you can, play through on that one and have a really different experience every time.
Yeah, that's one of the things I enjoy about a lot of BioWare games, but Mass Effect in itself will have a special place in my heart because it's one of the few a lot of BioWare games, they like to focus on kind of the more arcane and supernatural, and I'm probably very wrong about that now that I say it out loud. But the only two sci-fi games of theirs that I'm super familiar with are Mass Effect and then Star Wars: The Old Republic.
Oh, nice. Yep.
And for me, Mass Effect was very different experience. Like, the first time I played through the first one, I was just exceptionally confused on what on earth I was doing. So when I first came across Liara, like, I was... Because I had no idea that that's how you had to recruit Liara. So I had already gone to one of the main planets and done the thing, and then I came back and I'm like, oh,
Oops.
my bad. Didn't mean to leave you here forever.
Thanks a lot, man.
But the second time I came through, I went straight for Liara and got her. And the thing I like about her character is, she has a very dynamic growth.
Yes.
Throughout all the games. And
yes, which we worked hard. That was intentional.
But the thing I liked most about the first game is that she, on a crew of mostly humans, she is one of the most human characters there. Because everyone on this ship seems to have some sort of military background outside of Dr. Chakwas, Tali, and Liara.
Right.
And her and Tali, I bonded with them the most because they were just... First off, they were aliens on a foreign ship, and a lot of the people were not happy with them being there.
Right.
So they faced that kind of discrimination. But on top of that, they're like, we have no real military combat experience, and we are people of science and ingenuity.
Mm-hmm. And along with that probably came what I liked about Liara in the first Mass Effect was how inquisitive she was. And, she didn't really know how to experience emotion yet. She was so analytical and always sort of taking note of everything and taking it in. And I really liked that. Through the games, we intentionally increased her sort of humanity. We increased her level of feeling and becoming more human. So I thought that was kind of fun. But I really liked her. When people ask which Liara did you like the best, I mean, that's really hard because you've also got the DLC, which was a surprise to me and everybody else. But I really loved her in 1 because she just was so... Someone said, well, how can she be so naive when she was like 100 years old? And I was like, well, first of all, that's not very old in her world. Yeah, and B, she hadn't experienced this before. She was all analysis and all, taking things in, and she wasn't super reactionary, It's almost like the little head turn that your dog does when you do something weird or make a high-pitched sound. I feel like she just kind of turned her head at things, and that's sort of how I was in the booth interpreting her. That everything was something to understand and something to learn from, and don't necessarily I don't think she ever took things personally, even in 3, but she, she processed things in a very different way in 1 than she did, as she went through the games. So I like that you noticed that.
Yeah, and the thing that I like the most is that even in 1, 2, and 3, 2, she had a pretty dynamic shift, and I was... Yes. A little startled by that at first.
I was too. Yeah.
I was like, oh, hey, Liara, nice to meet you again. Oh, my God. And I normally play Renegade Shepard, so I'm used to kind of shit going wrong, and, at that point, I was just like, huh. Okay, then. But I like the fact that throughout all 3 games, the one thing that stays consistent is that even being an analytical entity and being a person of science, the one thing she has that almost no one seems to share is, and we talked about Caitlin, and I cannot remember her last name, but she voices Suvi in the new Andromeda game, and one of the things we like to talk about, we want to talk about with her character is that being a person of science and also being a person of faith.
Oh, yeah.
But her character is more of faith in God and faith in science, and whereas Liara is more faith in people. She... For seeing as much dark shit as she does.
She stays fairly positive.
She stays fairly positive. Even then, when confronted with how far off the deep end her mom's gone, she's just like, I think there's still some hope of salvation here. We can fix this.
Yes.
We'll just put a Band-Aid on it, Mom.
Exactly. I think she's seen it her whole life, so she kind of, she's almost searching out normalcy and growing up, always analyzing everything that's around her.
And I thought it was very noble of her, because a lot of the characters are just, with Rex and Garrus, they're just like, alright, let's just shoot it and be done with it. And she's like, maybe we can find another solution.
Let's think about that, Commander.
Yeah. Maybe everyone doesn't have to die.
maybe everyone doesn't have to die. I like that. We should have used that line. That would have been a really good line, I think.
Oh my gosh, that's another Bioware game that I forgot about. Was Knights of the Old Republic, the old Xbox game.
I got him all verklempt with the Liara voice, I think.
But that is our time, unfortunately. But
Sadly, it's over. We must say goodbye.
Yeah, it's been a pleasure talking to you.
Don't say you must go. Don't say you have to go. Please don't. If I hear that one more time.
I'm not going to say that. Instead, what I'll say is it's been a pleasure talking to you.
You too. Thanks for having me.